The Donald Trump has really been the backdrop of this hearing. The right has said his indictment is political. Democrats have said that this hearing is political. But in the case of the indictment, according to a CNN SRS poll that was taken after news broke of the indictment, 60% of adults agree with the decision of charges against Trump. But 76% of Americans polled believe politics played a role in the decision. Do you agree with the majority of Americans who do believe politics played some role here?
I would say it in a different way, that Mr. Trump used payoff monies to a woman with whom he had an affair in order to influence politics. In the days leading up to the presidential election, he wanted to hide his involvement with this woman to try to save his presidential bid. So you bet he played politics with that payoff. I'm heartened to hear that 60% of people want to uphold the rule of law. The president is responsible for what he does, what he certifies, what he signs to. We're all candidates for office. We know the importance of filing honest reports, financial reports, and not taking inappropriate or using funds inappropriately to support our campaigns. He must be held to account.
I do want to pivot now. Obviously, this hearing was about violence in America, Manhattan specifically. But during your remarks in the hearing, you appealed to your Republican colleagues to work with Democrats on gun legislation. What does working across the aisle on this issue look like?
Well, take a look. It's been 30 years since Congress did anything on gun violence until, I will say, 2019. And the Judiciary Committee under Chairman Nadler held our very first hearing on gun violence back in early 2019. It took until Uvalde and Buffalo, the slaughter of Black people in a supermarket in Buffalo, the slaughter of babies in Uvalde, third graders in Uvalde, for us to put together a package, the Safer Communities Act, which we passed, and not a single Republican helped. I would have thought that they would have said, yeah, we have to tackle this. This is not about taking guns away that are legally, properly owned. This is about reducing the slaughter on our streets, mass shooting after mass shooting. I would love for Jim Jordan to have said, you know what, let's scrap this hearing. We just had 2 more mass shootings over the weekend. Young people died at a Sweet 16 party. Children died. And that's just 2 examples of gun violence over the weekend. Let's scrap this hearing and figure out what will actually reduce the homicide rate, the suicide rate, the accidental shooting rate. That's what serious looks like. It is a plea. Work with us. We should not continue to live and die this way. It is only a matter of time before this violence will hit more and more of us. I don't understand how after Columbine, after Sandy Hook, after Las Vegas, Pulse, I can't even name them all anymore, how they couldn't say that this is not life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as was promised in our founding documents.
Congresswoman, I've talked to a lot of your colleagues, mostly Democratic colleagues, on this issue, and I've asked them, what do you think, what would you want to do to stop the violence? And they have all said ban assault weapons, but then they follow that up with that's mostly a non-starter for Republicans. Do you want that ban, and would you agree that that is a non-starter for Republicans?
I hope eventually it will not be a non-starter for Republicans. We know that assault-style weapons or weapons of war have no place on our streets in civilians' hands, too often in the hands of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. The police are begging us to do something because they are now outgunned. Take a look at some of these cases. The shooter has weapons as strong as, if not stronger than, some of the police departments that are coming to the scene to try to rescue folks and stop the slaughter. So I will continue to fight for an assault weapons ban. I hope we do some massive buyback, get these millions of irresponsible guns off the street. They were never intended for civilian hands. But we could do something more basic, universal background checks. Why won't they vote with us on that? We know that background checks keep guns out of the hands of prohibited purchasers. I'd liken it to, excuse me, a safety net, or you're fishing and a net. If you have a net that provides you the ability to catch that which you want to catch, in this case, prohibited purchasers from getting their hands on more weapons, why would you say, oh, it's great? 80% of the net is good. There's this gaping hole over here, but so be it. We have a gaping hole in our background check system, made wider with ghost guns and other guns, new technologies. Why in God's name wouldn't we want to have universal background checks so that only those who are legal to own guns owned guns? We have to crack down on straw purchases. I'm very heartened that we did pass the Safer Communities Act. We have the ability, we know best practices is going to be a combination of factors. But I am for an assault weapons ban. At some point, we're going to get this right. My only question is how many more people have to die before we get it right?